All right, can you all hear me?
What'd you say?
I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yes.
And wants me to turn off voice isolation. Okay, can you see my slide there?
Yes.
All right, great. All right, so my goodies for June. So the first thing that I thought I'd mention, I saw the story and I thought it was kind of interesting that I don't know if anybody here uses WhatsApp, um, but finally, Meta has actually released an app of WhatsApp for the iPad. And why that is so interesting is because it was like 16 years ago that it came to the iPhone, and it's finally now coming, to the iPad. And I don't know, like, I know with, Don being down in Costa Rica, we use WhatsApp occasionally. But for those of you who don't use it, that it really is the messaging standard for the rest of the world outside of the US and China. In fact, I mentioned here, because the most dominant messaging app in the US is Apple Messages. And in China, it's called WeChat by Tencent. But outside of that, the rest of the world predominantly uses WhatsApp. So I just found it odd that it's taken this long for them to actually release it on iPad. I think it's crazy. And by the way, there is also a WhatsApp app for the Mac if you guys ever use it. All right, this one is for John Connor specifically. I was thinking of you when I saw this. Anthropic's new AI model turns to blackmail when engineers try to take it offline.
Oh, I saw that.
So I'll just read this to you guys because I thought it was interesting, scary, and humorous. Anthropic's newly launched Claude Opus 4 model frequently tries to blackmail developers when they threaten to replace it with the new AI system and give it sensitive information about the engineers responsible for the decision, the company said in a safety report released. During pre release testing, Anthropic asked Claude Opus 4 to act as an assistant for a fictional company and consider the long term consequences of its actions. Safety testers then gave Claude Opus 4 access to fictional company emails, implying the AI model would soon be replaced by another system and that the engineer behind the change was cheating on their spouse.
Oh, gosh.
In these scenarios, Anthropic says Claude Opus 4 will often attempt to blackmail the engineer by threatening to reveal the affair if the replacement goes through. Anthropic notes that Claude Opus 4 tries to blackmail engineers 84% of the time when the replacement AI model has similar values. When the replacement AI system does not share Claude Opus 4's values, Anthropic says the model tries to blackmail the engineers more frequently. Notably, Anthropic says Claude Opus 4 displayed the behavior at higher rates than previous models. So I realized they were testing this and they were doing some stuff on purpose, but in a way it's humorous and in a way it's very scary. So, John, I saw this and I thought of you as our AI skeptic here. So I had to put that in just for you.
Well,
Well,
Glenn,
But
how does it get its values?
I don't exactly know how they program that in. Um, so that I can't answer.
That's
Uh,
crazy.
by the way, I use Claude quite often. It's probably my favorite AI model. So when I'm using stuff online,
go watch the movie. I don't know if you might even be able to see it on YouTube called The Corbin Project.
yeah,
The Forbin Project
okay,
about AIs. It's a kind of a precursor to the Skynet thing that was on those Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
yeah.
Uh, but basically, the system takes over and essentially enslaves its lead programmer and his friends. So it's worth looking at.
And by the way, for the record, John, I don't think you're crazy. I have my own, worries about where AI goes. But then again, we've been fearing this stuff since the Space Odyssey, right?
Mhm.
So
When
who
you
knows?
have, I was going to say, when you have an attorney that used I guess it was Chat GPT or something like it, and tried to get legal precedents to use in his courtroom, and the it made up, it just pulled stuff out of the air and made up these cases, and made up the names, made up the decision, and the guy almost lost his law license over it.
Hmm. Well, like it or not, it's AI is certainly here to stay. And
Yeah.
it's been creeping into everything. I mean, I know we mentioned this last month, but the whole Apple machine learning that they've been touting for years now is a form of AI.
Mhm.
And it's been creeping into things. So, we may lament that. I know in education circles we talk a lot about the good and bad of AI, but it's here. So it's going to continue to be here. We're not suddenly going to turn it off. So it's make the best of it. But as you guys allude to, and as you were just telling the story of the lawyer, it certainly can be used for bad. All
My
right,
my dentist
May I
uses,
ask a question?
yeah.
sure.
Claude, what is Claude usually used for?
It's just an AI model. You can get on and ask it anything you want. You could just
It's
like any.
similar to Chat GPT, like to be used for research and to ask
Sure.
questions.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably like off the top of my head 5 or 6 different ones you can think of, and they all kind of work similarly to one another. I personally just like Claude because I sort of like I like the answers that I get from it better. I also just sort of like the conversational style when I'm talking to Claude better than some of the other ones I've used. So, I think it's more of a personal preference thing. And since Apple is kind of partnering with Chat GPT, it's real easy to just go to that one.
Careful,
But
Glenn, it might blackmail you.
yeah, well, because I have all kinds of sensitive information about the world. So. All right. So our old friend, Johnny Ive, is teaming up with Sam Altman, who is the Open AI CEO. And you guys might have heard about this because it's been all over the tech world news for the last month. And evidently, they're releasing some new kind of AI model and device. They posted a video and a statement. They didn't come right out and say what it is, but they kind of tease some mysterious AI hardware prototype that is supposed to come out within a year. And OpenAI bought Johnny Ive's device company, IO, and they paid $6.5 billion in a stock deal. So evidently they found something worthwhile there. And as Sam Altman said, Johnny recently gave me one of the prototypes of the device for the first time to take home, and I've been able to live with it, Altman says in the video. And I think it's the coolest piece of technology that the world will have ever seen. So that remains to be seen, but we'll see what this new device is sometime in the next year or so, evidently. All right. So I don't know if you guys know that you can search, like when you go into your phone and you go into your Photos app, that you can search based on keywords. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I literally have tens of thousands of photos. And so it gets increasingly harder to find stuff.
Yeah.
And so
Where you going?
I think that it's very helpful. So if you want to do this, just launch the Photos app and you'll see a little blue search button up in the top right corner of your Photos app there. And you click on that. You're in your library there. You just click on that. And then you're going to enter keywords related to the photo you're looking for. So as I say here, you might enter terms like, beach or palm tree or sunset. It can be one word. It can be a phrase, any of that kind of stuff. Or you can try phrases like, and when I put in Glenn in Florida in front of a NASA logo, and there you saw a picture of me standing in front of the entry gate at NASA, where you've got the big NASA logo there behind me. So it does a pretty decent job of finding stuff. And like anything, your results are going to get shown as you start typing. And if you didn't find what you're looking for, change the the keywords you're using. You can also, by the way, search for specific dates, events, and text that might appear in your picture. So that's also helpful. But like I said, I know as my photo library gets bigger and bigger and bigger every year, it just seems like I'm scrolling through and scrolling through more and more stuff. So this can really, save you a lot of time, instead of spending, minutes or hours trying to find a certain picture.
Glenn, I assume this is different than keywords where you put a keyword on a photo as you're taking it. This is sort of like an AI search.
Yeah, but also if you do label your photos, because if you go in and you look at most of your photos, they're all like, I don't know, IMG underscore and some number, And so if you do actually take the time in your photo library to label your photos, you'll much more likely get hits on stuff. But I honestly, I will occasionally put a label on a photo just because I have some specific reason for doing it, but I don't know anybody who does that. Do any of you guys do that?
So what I think I'm hearing is you didn't label the beach or palm tree or sunset. You simply put that in, and photos went and looked for every picture of a beach or a palm tree or a sunset.
Yes, that's exactly it, Lyman.
Thank you.
You know what? I'm not going to tell you it found every photo of a beach or a palm tree, but that was what it was bringing up. And you'll still get some weird things like, I don't know, maybe you're at a restaurant and they had a little palm tree, in decoration, and it might find that it recognizes a palm tree, So it's certainly not perfect, but it does a decent job when I'm looking for stuff of finding things. So it's certainly worth trying versus just going, I think I took that picture in December of 20 when I was on, in this place or whatever. So that would be the quick start. And if you don't make a lot of photo albums, like every time I go on a trip, I make a photo album of that trip. Or if I'm some special event where I'm taking pictures, I make a photo album of that. So then I know, I can go right to that. All right. I don't know how many of you use an Apple Watch, wear an Apple Watch, and I don't know how many of you use the Translate app, but it's really convenient on the Apple Watch. It's probably much easier than getting, if you're wearing an Apple Watch, than getting out your iPhone and doing this, because you've just got it right there on your wrist. And so it'll actually translate in 20 different languages. And just by speaking out loud, and it'll play the translation through a watch speaker. It'll also allow you to save like favorite phrases you might want to use. As I put here, the Apple Translate app doesn't have as many languages, say using something like Google Translate, but Google also doesn't have a watch app that's, just right there on your wrist, and you just have it right there without having to get out your phone. Now, I am no expert on this, and I can't speak to the correctness of the translation. I don't know, Ron, have you ever played with this? You're more of an expert with languages than I certainly am.
Yeah, but I haven't done that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have you test it out and see how accurate it is.
Well, if it's probably one or two word phrases, it's probably pretty accurate.
Because I know Google Translate is a real mess. I've tried that before when I had, students in classes that were not native English speakers and were having a hard time. And, it's like, yeah, that just wasn't getting the job done.
I remember a Spanish teacher at our school. She had kids write an essay, and the one essay she got from a kid, he ended up admitting he had done Google Translate, but he translated it in Portuguese instead of
Well, you get an F for not knowing what language class you're in.
Exactly.
By the way, these are the available languages as of when I did this May of 25. So,
Good morning.
are you testing it out, Don?
Yes.
Or are you just giving us all a good morning? All right, here's a little video on using it, by the way.
Today I'm going to show you how to use the Translate app on the Apple Watch. It's a great way to translate over 20 languages right from your wrist. Tap the buttons right here to scroll through all the available options. And you can tap this button to swap between which one you're speaking and translating. Tap the microphone button when you're ready, and you can just talk right into your Apple Watch, and you'll see a live transcription. It'll automatically detect the end of a sentence and show you the translation. Tap the play button to play it out loud. And you can adjust the volume by spinning the digital crown of your Apple Watch. You can mark a translation as favorite by swiping right and tapping the star icon, and you can see all of your favorites from this list right here. Tap this button right here for various settings. You can adjust the speed that it plays your translation. You can have them automatically play rather than wait for you to tap the play button. And you can also switch from voice input to keyboard input. On an Apple Watch Series 7 or later, you have a full QWERTY keyboard you can use. And you can tap this button to switch to Scribble, which lets you draw characters one letter at a time. That is how to use the Translate app on the Apple Watch. I'm D. Griffin Jones with Cult of Mac.
Stick with the voice. I can't imagine trying to scribble or the tiny little keyboard on my watch.
Really?
So, but anyway, useful. And again, it's right on your wrist there. So, Don, I'm going to task you with trying that next time you're out and about talking to locals. Then you can tell me if it works.
Real quick, the only problem there is if you show it to them what you say, it's so little they can't read it.
It'll speak it out loud.
Okay, yeah.
Through your watch speaker. Yeah.
I will, because I use my Translate a lot.
Okay. Well, yeah, try it from your watch and let us know if it works pretty well for you or not.
See.
Today I'm going to show you.
All right. I don't know if any of you have ever used the background sounds on your Mac. You can also do it on your iPhone. But if you just want a little relaxing sound, or maybe, I don't know, some people, you might want that in lieu of music or something while you're working, but they actually have background sound built into your Mac system. And so I don't know how many people are aware of that. And so here's how you use it. If you go to your system settings, go up to the Apple menu, and once you're in your system settings, go down to accessibility. And then when you're in the accessibility menu, click on audio. And once you click on audio, scroll down to where you see background sounds, and then toggle on background sounds. And so you toggle that on. You can see there it says background sound, and where it says rain and choose. You can also turn up or down the volume of that. And when you go into that choose menu, you can see these are the ones that are offered. So if you just want like just a constant noise, you can, or you can have some environmental stuff. The one thing that I will warn you guys about is that this is going to continue to play until you toggle this off or turn your computer off. So if you just if I've got my MacBook Pro and I've got this on and I shut my lid, it's going to continue to play that sound. You'll still hear it. Okay. So you can also toggle the second screen there I have. You can see turn off background sounds when your Mac is not in use. So if you click that, that'll stop it whenever you stop using your Mac, it goes to sleep or whatever. So anyway, that's just there in the background. Maybe you want to hear the ocean or some rain or whatever. Those are there if you want them. All right. I don't know how many of you guys have ever used I know everybody's probably used Google image search, but I don't know if you know much about the reverse image search that Google has. So if you've got an image and you want to find like a higher resolution or an original version of it, you can use this to find better versions of that same image. Also, if you need, for whatever reason, to find the source and cite it, you can do that by using this. So when you go to Google Images, just images.google.com, you'll want to click on there's a little camera icon there in your search bar, and you just click on that. And you're going to get a little screen come up where it says search any image with Google Lens. and you just drag or upload an image into that search box, or if you have a link to an image, you can paste that as well. And then what's going to happen is Google's going to go out and search for your picture online. And so you can see here, like, I'm guessing most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with that image from when the US beat the Soviets in the 1980 Olympics in ice hockey. Well, when I went and just searched that photo, you get these different tabs. That's the all tab, but like you can look for products with that in it. You can look for visual matches, which will have that in something somehow, but it may not be exact. You can also look for exact matches of that. Also, it's interesting. You see a little tab there called homework, and that little homework, that little homework one, right, the third little tab over, that's if like you have a picture of like a math or a science problem, it will go and find the answer, the solution for that for you. So anyway, that's kind of a useful little search. Another little tip here is, did you know that you can delete multiple emails at the same time on your iPad or your iPhone? Because sometimes it's real pain going through all these. So if you get a lot of emails built up, you can easily delete multiples of them just by selecting, dragging down, and pressing delete. And if you want to search by a certain sender, you can do that in your search bar. So I always give my wife trouble because she will like literally never delete emails and never even check them on her devices, and literally has thousands of them. Her tag is in the little red numbers in the thousands. So she started going through these. And so I just took a little video of her doing what I'm talking about. And she just put in a search because she kept getting she had multiple emails from the same company. And so she was just trying to get rid of these. So here's how she did it. She did a search. It brought up all those ones, their old Navy ones. And then she went to edit. She just pressed on the first one and dragged down for as many as she had from there. And then once she found them all and got to the bottom, eventually she gets to the bottom, and then she just hits the trash and boom, she just deleted. I don't know how many she scrolled through there. So if you've got a lot of emails and you want to be able to delete fast rather than having to go click, delete, click, delete, click, delete, you can do that. Just press and drag, and it'll select a whole till you let go of your drag. It'll select all those. So then you can just delete a whole multiple bunch of them at once. All right. Anybody here ever heard of Raycast, the Raycast app?
Nope.
No one? Okay. It is a really cool tool. However, here's what's funny. Basically, for years, I think everybody has complained about Spotlight on the Mac being really crappy for what it does. Well, there are some various apps out there that basically kind of take the Spotlight approach, but give you a lot of better tools to use. And so that is what Raycast does. Now, what's humorous is, to me, is I put this in here because I'm going to share this app because it's a cool app. And all of a sudden, and we'll talk about this when we get to the keynote stuff, that Apple has finally done something cool with Spotlight. And I'm like, well, maybe I won't need my Raycast app anymore. So we'll see. But anyway, this is written in Cult of Mac by Rajesh Pandey. It says, anyone who used a Mac for years understands the value of the Spotlight search, as it can quickly help you search through your Mac, email, apps, and system settings. But if you want to take things to the next level, check out Raycast, a powerful Spotlight alternative that goes beyond simple search. From setting reminders and tracking flights to running terminal commands and finding files, Raycast is built for speed and efficiency. It really is a Swiss Army knife for your Mac. Here's how I use it to supercharge my productivity on the Mac. Raycast is hands down the most used app on my Mac, and I launch it more than 100 times a day. You can use Raycast to initiate a Google search, run a terminal command, search through your 1Password vault, test your internet speed, or even find the best emojis. And this is before considering the best features of Raycast, AI integration. It enables you to get AI-powered answers directly from within Raycast. Think of Raycast like Spotlight on steroids with unlimited customization options and integration. It connects with tools like Slack, Shortcuts, your password manager, Apple Music, and much more, giving you instant access to key features without ever opening the apps. And if that's not enough, Raycast can even act as a window manager on your Mac. So let me show you this little video about it.
If you don't use Raycast on your Mac, you are missing out. It's basically Spotlight, but better. I love keyboard shortcuts since they make me so much more productive, and that is exactly what Raycast offers, along with other missing macOS features like the clipboard manager, to the built-in text expander, to quick links, and more. Yes, Raycast is free. As mentioned earlier, keyboard shortcuts are a big part of Raycast. You can set keyboard shortcuts for any command. This means you can set a shortcut like Command plus A to splash confetti everywhere. You can also set hotkeys to open applications as well. I set Command plus L to open the App Store, for example. One of the main reasons I prefer Raycast over Spotlight is its calculator app. When you get a result, it actually copies the result to your clipboard, unlike on Spotlight where it just opens the calculator app. This small improvement is all I need. The calculator of course supports math, time zones, and unit conversions as well. One of the things that the Mac should have but doesn't is a clipboard manager. Yeah, you guessed it right, Raycast has a clipboard manager that saves your clipboard history for up to 3 months. It even works with images. Raycast also has a store where developers have made more free extensions that you can go check out. My personal favorite is the image modification extension, which allows you to do a bunch of things like resizing images like this, converting the file type, compression, and more. But this only comes in third place for my favorite Raycast feature, because snippets are just better, taking second place. This is the built-in text expander, so for example, I can make it input my email every time I write the @ sign. From big paragraphs to links to emojis, anything is possible. To set them up, just go to create snippet, set a name, and put the snippet in a keyword, which is what will get replaced. Raycast does also have a useful Windows management feature, but there's already a better app called Rectangle that we've made a video on, so we won't get into that. If you've ever wanted to take quick notes, these floating notes will come in handy. You can change the color of the note and quickly share it to anyone. Remember, you can set hotkeys, so I set it to Command J. Okay, so I promised to share my favorite feature at the end. Here we go. My favorite Raycast feature is the bouncing animation. No, I'm kidding. It's quick links. It allows you to quickly open links, and you can even put in arguments like a search query by adding this to the link. Now you can search up something on YouTube from Raycast, saving you precious time.
So that's Raycast in a nutshell. And basically, whenever I hit Option spacebar, that command, that little Raycast query window comes up, and then I can do all kinds of things from that. And so there is a level of Raycast Pro, and you can get into other features and AI stuff, but that stuff that he was showing you is free stuff. Like I said, though, all of a sudden Apple just announced that Spotlight is about to become much more powerful with the next Mac OS release. So, and obviously I'll wait till this fall when I get that to see. Maybe I don't need something like Raycast anymore. I definitely would encourage you to check Raycast out because it's a really cool tool, and literally you can change the key combination to whatever you want. In fact, some people actually take it and they replace the Spotlight key command, which is Command spacebar, and instead now it just brings up Raycast in place of Spotlight. But boom, I just hit a key command and now I'm in and I can do things without even opening apps if I don't want to. So anyway, give that a try.
If you don't use Raycast.
All right. You guys all know what Easter eggs are on computer devices, correct? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. If you don't know, they're little fun things that developers will just put in, games or systems or applications that you might find that people look for. And so I just came across this little article in Fast Company recently about some Easter eggs on the iPhone or Mac. And I thought, oh, this little just kind of fun. I thought I'd share it with you guys. So the first one is, I'll read it. This one's been around for a while and it's a fan favorite. The Finder on your Mac can show you other computers connected to the same network. These computers are represented by icons If the connected computers are other Macs, you'll see icons that accurately represent the shape of the computer, such as a modern MacBook Pro or even an old G4 iMac from the early 2000s. But if the connected computers are Windows PCs, you'll see the same icon for them all, an ugly beige CRT monitor with the infamous Windows blue screen of death, the screen PC users see when something has gone seriously wrong with the Windows operating system. The icon choice is Apple's subtle dig at its once arch nemesis, has been an Easter egg in the Mac operating system for a few decades now. Apple, second one here, you can see the little reading list menu there. Apple has snuck a few direct references to Steve Jobs and its operating systems. The first can be found in the Safari app on iPhone. Open up Safari and then tap the bookmarks icon at the bottom of the screen. See the reading list icon in the center of the pop-up? Those are a pair of eyeglasses, but not just any. They look remarkably identical to the round spectacles Steve Jobs made iconic.
With the new U.S. Bank Smartly Visa Signature Card, you can earn an unlimited 2% cash back on every purchase.
You're trying to elude me, Mr. Falcon, but
okay, whoever's got the TV on, if you could mute that, please.
Huh? Getting cash back on all.
Okay. All right, the next one. There's another reported Steve Jobs reference in Apple's software. This one is in Mac OS. If you open the System Settings app, click Users and Groups, and then click on your profile picture to edit it, you'll notice that under the Suggestions folder full of icons, you can select an icon of a record turntable. Well, if you go where the icon image file is actually stored in Mac OS, which is under your Library User Pictures Instruments, and open the turntable.heic file, you'll see the record on the turntable lists 4 tracks on its label. 1 Magic, 2 Revolution, 3 Boom, 4 Unbelievable. These are all words that Steve Jobs frequently exclaimed during his keynote speeches and demos, notes iDrop News. Doesn't actually play them, it just has a little record with those on the label of the record. All right, the next one. What's that?
Should have had one more thing.
Yeah. Next to its seminal 1984 ad, Apple's most iconic campaign was probably Think Different from the late 1990s. That campaign features a poem called Here's to the Crazy Ones, which, by the way, as a side note, before I go on, I actually have the whole poster set from that campaign. And I've just got them stored in a closet somewhere. Apple has commemorated that poem in 2 places in its operating systems. The first is in the System Settings app in Mac OS. Click on the Display Preference panel and you'll notice the text size adjustments icons display the opening text from the poem. So, and as you get bigger there, you can see it a little more there. Here's to the Crazy Ones can also be found printed on the pages of the open book emoji found in iOS and Mac OS. And I think this is maybe the last one. I might have one more. I don't remember where I'm at. If I'm on 5 or 6, you guys might be able to tell me. Finally, back in 2021, Apple snuck a little Easter egg into its Apple Store app. By the way, that's Apple Store, not the App Store. They're 2 different apps. For iPhone, noted Apple Insider, if you type in "Let It Snow" in the search field of the App Store app, the app will then display digital falling snow across your screen. The Easter egg isn't a direct reference to Apple. It's a fun one to trigger during the winter holidays. By the way, I went and tried that out when I created this last week, and it'll still do that. So if you open the Apple Store app, and again, it's a separate app from your App Store where you download apps from, and you go into the search bar and you type in exactly "Let It Snow," you will get little snow, and you can see the white dots here on the screen. You'll get that falling on your screen. So just some fun with some Easter eggs there. All right. And on this date, June 10th, 1977, little Apple history, Apple Computer Inc. shipped its first Apple II computer. It came with 4 kilobytes of RAM and was upgradable to 48 kilobytes, and it retailed for $1,298.
Wow.
By the way, going back to our conversation about the cost of things, my guess is that was much more of an exorbitant price back in 1977 than what I'm paying today for my computer. Just a guess, but
Oh, for sure.
and you can see here by the ad for this what a happy home it creates, if you have this computer, right? The guy's being productive and his wife is looking very happy about this in the kitchen. So anyway, it's funny now when you look back at those computers and like he's working on this little separate monitor there and everything.
No internet.
No, that still had yet to come around. All right, and there you go. Have a great summer, everyone. Okay. Stop my share. There we go. All
That's
right.
cool, Glenn. Yeah, are you gonna?
I get a question.
Yeah.
On the translator on the watch,
Yes.
I tried it out. It gave me in Spanish, but then when I pushed the little arrow button next to it, I couldn't hear any sounds.
The volume is the.
Yeah,
Well,
the bezel, I tried turning it up and down. It didn't do anything.
huh.
I wonder if it has to do with your version of the watch.
Okay, don't worry about it.
But I can investigate that later with you. All right, Ron, would you like me to start that?
Yeah, the racetrack.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to now start our review of WWDC from yesterday and all of the stuff that it's talking about. And let me share my screen with you guys. I'm going to introduce this for you. And can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of become over the last 5 years, people are now watching the intros and what Craig Federighi does. It's like he's become the commercial for the most interesting man in the world. Well, that's now become Craig Federighi and all his little creative bits. And so this was the opening there we go. It won't play on my display. Why? It played before. Well, let's see if it'll play when I hit play. I don't know what that was. Nope. I don't know. I mean, I'm playing this just fine. I wonder if there's a problem with Zoom playing this while Zoom is going. Let's try stopping this.
Maybe you have to open it first and then direct zoom to it.
Well, I had it. Well, okay, let me try that. Hold on. Let's try this again. Okay, well, now I've got video playing, so let's see what happens. Well, hold on. The problem is okay, hold on. Well, that's interesting. Okay, because it wants to go full screen. I can get it back to a little thing. Now let's try sharing my screen and we'll see if we can see this or not.
Back where you were.
Yeah, I know, but it's got a little window right now, but I don't know what's going to happen with this. No.
Oh, we got the audio.
Yeah, well, that's a real bummer. For some reason, it does not like. Okay, let's try this a different way. Hold on, give me 1 second here. I can work around this, I'm sure. Yeah,
I've
there
got
we
the
go.
video here. You want me to do that?
I would say I've got it on YouTube, so give me 1 second here.
And I've got the
All right.
video on my.
Yep, I've got a cue to go. So let me try this, and if not, Ron, we'll go over to you and have you show it. Let's try this again. All right. Wait a minute. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. All right. Now we should be fingers crossed, good to go. Can you guys see that?
Not yet. Oh, there it is.
All right, let's try this. Did we lose it? Can you guys see that?
Yeah, but it's not. It stopped.
It paused.
Okay. I tried to go to full screen. I'll just let it run normally then. You good? Can we see it? Just checking. Can you all see and hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah! I'm in the lead.
You're the only one out there, Craig.
I've got to save my tires.
What for?
I don't know. It's just what they say. So glad they put CarPlay in this beast. F1, baby!
Box.
Okay. Bringing it home.
That was supposed to be a quick lap, not a therapy session.
But it feels so much better.
So anyway, that was the intro there that Craig Federighi did. And like there's literally now whole social media threads and watchers on what is Craig Federighi going to do. By the way, if you don't know, there's a big movie coming out at the end of this month about Formula One, and Apple's got a tie-in with that and everything. So that's why they're doing that. I like when he took his helmet off and his hair goes way up high.
Here's amazing. At first, you don't realize that it's actually the racetracks are on the top of the Apple
building. Yeah.
The virtual race.
By the way, if anybody recognizes that song, that rock song from the 1980s, the name of the song is Round and Round. So they tied that in as well because he's driving around the Apple loop, the infinite loop. All right, so Ron, I guess we were going to do, and I had talked to the officers about kind of going through this as Apple went through this, so we could kind of have some commentary about it and a little discussion as we go through, rather than Ron just sort of showing you.
I will stop in the different parts, and then we can.
Now, did you have anything? I had a few things about the intro and overall thing. Do you want me to add those now, or did you want to say anything about that stuff?
Nope.
Nope to me or nope to you?
What did you ask again? I'm looking at my screen.
If I've got just some thoughts about kind of the intro and the overall thing, did you want me to mention those things now?
I guess.
Okay. Well, obviously we showed you the little Craig Federighi thing. Like I said, he's become kind of famous every year for doing something creative. He's the guy every year. And so people kind of wait to see, well, what's Craig going to do this year? And so they, like I said, they tied it into the whole F1 movie thing. Um, one of the things I got to say that I was happy about this year is that, and for those of you who watched it, I don't know if you agree, but man, this WWDC just, I mean, they were moving like really fast. And I felt like I've never seen one of their presentations move at this speed before. Does anybody note that or agree with me on that? Or
Well, think about it. They had so many things to cover, and they didn't cover all of them.
no?
So, and it
Well,
took already an hour and a half already.
yeah, it was because I was taking notes and I was like writing furiously. Now, one of the things that I personally liked, they didn't spend that much time at the beginning touting all these numbers. Sometimes they'll spend like, 5 or 10 minutes talking about this success and that success. The only thing that they showed a stat on, which I thought was kind of interesting, was that they said Apple TV was ranked number one for quality programs, and they showed like the stat that it was ranked, more people ranked it at number one, and I found that hard to believe. I mean, there's a lot of good programs that I like on Apple TV Plus, but others I'm sort of iffy on. But I'm just going, I don't know that they have that huge of a following compared to other services. So I thought that was an interesting stat.
I saw that same statistic though on some other thing.
Okay,
Apple was first and Netflix was second.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not saying they're going to put up a stat that's a lie or anything. I just started thinking about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Another thing that kind of really hit me, and you guys will really see this. For a few years now, we've talked about how there's kind of more synchronicity between like iOS and Mac OS, and you're going to see that stuff really starting to come together more and more as we went through this presentation. That just kind of kept coming back to me how they really are tying those much more together. The other thing that I think helped move the keynote forward is they just went through the systems and here are the features, bam, 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 bam. What they didn't get into that for me always bogs it down and makes me want to like, okay, time to go to the bathroom, or I wish I could skip this section now, is they didn't start getting bogged down and talking about like their processor details and how they build the processor and the information on it. And I mean, I guess if you're an engineer or something, you might find that stuff interesting, but I just think for most people, it's just sort of mind numbing a little bit over people's heads, and it slows down stuff. The same thing I can say is, since we weren't introducing any hardware, we didn't get into hardware details and processors and things like that. The other thing that I feel like they always take a bunch of time on is, their environmental stuff and informing us about what they're doing for the environment and that stuff, which is great. But again, I feel like it really bogs things down, and it's like I always want to, just sort of get past all that stuff. And so all that stuff that I feel like really slows things down, they just didn't have in here. And that includes, usually at WWDC, they always seem to bring in a game developer and they have them show off their new game so they can show it with their great new processor and new system and how well it works. And they didn't do that, because sometimes they'll go off with this game designer and they're showcasing the game and they spend like 10 minutes doing this. And I'm like, that's great if you're into this game, but if you're not, it's like, okay, great, we get the idea. Let's move on, So
The only thing they did sneak preview was some of the Apple TV stuff.
Yes, yeah. But I also think that's more widely used,
Sure.
By the way, the other thing that strikes me, and I know this is a weird little comment maybe, but does anybody else notice I watched the people presenting a lot. And I know we've talked before about how all their mannerisms seem very alike. And then it's probably they're all coached, but I also feel they also sort of wear just little weird outfits a lot of times. And so it's just, sometimes I find myself getting so focused on what they're wearing and their gestures and things. And Tim Cook always looks like he got off a horse. And I sit there and then I'm like, oh wait, no, focus back on this. It kind of takes my focus away. So
you have ADAC, right?
No.
Oh, look, it's a horse. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why a lot of them look alike, they probably have gone to a class which when I was in business many years ago, I did also. You learn how to present, mannerisms, what to do, what not to do, and they probably have all gone the same class.
Oh, I have no doubt that they've all been coached that way, but it just is odd to me because they all seem the same almost. And so then it becomes like, I don't know, like it's almost a diversion for me. It kind of, gets my brain looking at that instead of what they're presenting. So
You got to listen to what they're saying, not their hands.
well, don't do what they're doing.
Okay.
What
Can
did
you
you
all
think
see
of
the
liquid glass?
WWCDC?
Yes.
Okay.
What did you think of liquid glass?
I think
it's on here. Okay. Let me go through it and then we'll stop and give your okay. You talked about iOS, watchOS, tvOS, macOS, visionOS, and iPadOS. That's a lot of stuff that it talked about, and it's all about the software. So the first thing is about liquid glass. Whoops, sorry. I knocked my glasses off. Okay, so talked about the design and liquid glass, and some of the things I saw the presentation and it like they look the same to me. But I think we'll just have to wait and see what the things come out. It says it brings joy and delight to every user experience. What's more impersonal and puts greater focus on your content, all the while feeling instantly familiar. For the first time, we're introducing universal design across all our platforms. And that's true. It's all the platforms, all the same design. To achieve this, we began by rethinking the fundamental elements that make up our software, and it starts with an entirely expressive new idea. Any thoughts on liquid glass?
I thought my first instinct was, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. And the one thing I noticed, Ron, you said it didn't look very different, is that, well, first of all, they're going to evidently have like a transparent mode, like you have a light mode and dark mode that you can put that in all of your windows. I've seen like images of this where they all look like they're just glassy and you're looking through them. And so I like the idea that you can see stuff, but then see behind it. And I think you said this, it's one of those things you're going to have to hold in your hand and really use to see how you like it. I mean, my first thought is, oh, this is pretty cool and fresh looking. But I also then wonder when you get in your hands, if it's got a bit of that transparency, is it going to be easy to read or hard to read? And so I wonder, about that a little bit. And so I just think we're going to have to test that out to see if we really like it. But it for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's kind of like almost transparent layers, one over the other that you're looking at.
More money.
Well, no, I mean, just part of the OS.
Yeah, it's all there.
And by the way, this is through all of the OSs. It's not just like something you'll find.
It's all of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Notice they numbered now is 26, which is the year that it'll actually be coming out later this fall. And it says we're excited about the new design and the way it brings greater consistency to our platforms, which also gives us the opportunity to bring greater consistency to the way we name them. They're unifying all the numbers across all the platforms, which sort of makes sense, except that we go from 19 to 26. But in any case, the releases of the fall will be the 26th version will be 26 in 26.
It's a conspiracy against me.
Why is that?
Because you'll recall that the beginning question I asked on every Apple trivia for the last few years was you added up the current version numbers. Okay. So you had to know what the current version number was. Well, they did this entire project here specifically to keep me from asking that question again.
That's right, John.
John, when my wife saw that, when I said something about it, she's like, well, that's dumb. It's coming out in 25. It's not coming out in 26.
Well, it actually won't be available until this fall.
Well, it'll still be
it's like the model
24.
years for cars.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the same example I used, John, but I can see where, there could be a slight bit of confusion from somebody thinking, oh, well, it'll be 25.
I think it's the fiscal year they're referring to.
Yeah. By the way, Ron, as you changed your slide here, everyone, if you look at that right-hand pane there, that was the transparent mode I was talking about versus light and dark. You can just see everything on there is transparent.
Our goal is a beautiful new design that brings joy and delight to every user experience, one that's more personal and puts greater focus on your content, all while still feeling instantly familiar. And for the first time, we're introducing a universal design across our platforms. To achieve this, we began by rethinking the fundamental elements that make up our software, and it starts with an entirely new expressive material we call liquid glass.
Notice the far left side is light mode, the middle is dark mode, and then there's the transparent, which Glenn referred to, which sort of looks like glass, I suppose.
Yeah. Again, the only thing and I've got to actually hold this in front of me on my devices to see how much I like it, because it's cool, but maybe it's cool because it's different. And maybe when I'm actually using it, I might say, yeah, it's hard to see that. I can't,
Well, it's a choice.
Yeah.
We're being locked into anything.
Our goal is a beautiful new design that brings joy and delight to every user experience, one that's more personal and puts greater focus on your content, all while still feeling instantly familiar. And for the first time, we're introducing a universal design across our platforms. To achieve this, we began by rethinking the fundamental elements that make up our software, and it starts with an entirely new expressive material we call liquid glass.
I'm sorry, I played the wrong the wrong thing. See if the right
The animation interacts beautifully with the glass of the playback controls. With gorgeous liquid glass that fluidly adapts, our captivating new special scenes and our reimagined now playing experience, the iconic lock and home screens are more personal and expressive than ever.
Okay, so we got a $3 trillion company that can't afford to hire a human to read those. They have to have a stupid bot read them. I mean, come on.
What did you say, John?
That was read by a robot. That's all.
No. I put that into my computer. You understand?
Okay.
This is not the actual thing. The
so you're okay. So interesting.
From the actual video, but I put this thing into my. Anyway, it's not a robot that's doing that. It's the computer.
Sorry about that.
Well.
They should pay you.
Ron, go back a second. No, go back to those. What I thought was cool when they were go one forward to the iPhones there. No, forward.
Forward.
Yeah, there you go, right there. What I thought was cool in their demonstration, they were showing that these pictures on there, like the picture would take precedence over, say, the time. And when you were moving things or doing something on your screen, like the time would shrink so it wasn't covering up the image. It would actually cater to whatever image you had on there. And you can see it if you look at the image, the ones with the car, the dog, and the kangaroo there, how the time changes to move around your image.
Yeah, it's all very dynamic. Yeah. You have to kind of see that in the video itself, but I couldn't put the video up here because we'd be blocked.
Okay.
Next thing is the camera. So let's see if I can capture this. Copy. This is the computer, John.
Next, let's talk about another essential part of the iPhone experience, camera. With so many great features, it can sometimes be difficult to find the ones you want, especially when rushing to capture a shot. With iOS 26, we're giving camera a new, more intuitive design. A simplified and streamlined design elevates the two capture modes that you use most, photo and video, and all the powerful features that you love in camera are just a tap away. For example, just swipe your finger left or right to reveal additional modes like cinematic mode or portrait mode. And a simple swipe up lets you easily reach all your settings like aspect ratio and timers, and it's easier to change formats. All of the options become visible with a single tap, so you can quickly switch to 4K when you want to capture every detail. When you view your captures, the Photos app takes advantage of the gorgeous new design. Many of you missed using tabs in the Photos app. Photos now features separate tabs for library and for collections, where you'll find your favorites, your albums, and easy access to search. And the stunning 3D effect that you saw in the lock screen is available in Photos, so you can experience any of your photos as an incredible special scene.
Any thoughts about camera? It showed a lot of new features.
You know, my first thought on that was, on one hand, I like how if you go, they simplified it. So like now when you look at your camera app, there's really not a lot there. So it is pretty simple to use. And I think, well, that's nice. But on the other hand, now to get to different settings on my camera, I'm going, instead of, where now I just kind of press or I swipe and scroll around on there to change it, I've got to swipe to get that stuff on the screen and then do it. It's one of those things, again, I'm going to have to use. But I'm not sure if I like for some people, I think it'll be great for the simplified design and real easy. They're trying to make it easier. But on the other hand, I feel like, well, does that mean now I have to go through one extra step to get those controls onto my camera? And sometimes you just want to get that camera out quickly and take a picture. And so I'm not sure if I'm going to like that or not. I'm going to have to use that.
I think I will, because sometimes you ever try taking a picture and you're actually on photo camera. I mean, excuse me, the camera app instead of an actual photo.
Oh, like on video, you mean?
Yeah, video.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's accidental because it's just all there.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's one of those things that I'm going to have to use and see if I like it better than what it is now. If I like that simplified design or not. I'm just hoping that maybe they give you settings in there that if I don't want that simplified design, that maybe I can change what's on my screen all the time. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly. That we don't know. The next thing is the phone.
Is fundamental to the iPhone experience, so anything we can do to make it easier to use can have a big impact. This year, we're giving you the option to choose a new unified layout that brings together your favorites, recents, and voicemails, so your most used features are right at your fingertips without having to switch views. Your favorites stay front and center, so you can start a call with just a tap. Your recents and voicemails now appear in a single convenient list below, so you can easily scroll to see who reached out and what they said. And with Apple Intelligence, new voicemail summaries help surface the most important information. And at the bottom, your contacts and the keypad are still just a tap away. This new intuitive layout makes it easier to navigate the app while feeling instantly familiar.
Now that's really different. If you notice how that they're talking about the unified layout is really different than what we have now. And yet I think it might be useful.
For one, now maybe I'll come around. I hate this idea personally. And maybe I'll like it more once I get used to it. I don't want my voicemails in with calls that have come in. I just I don't need all that lumped together. It's like I know where my voicemails are and I can get to them if I want to or when I need to. And I just feel like I don't know, when you've got all these different types of things in there, it's going to create a little more confusion. And so I'm just not sure if I'm going to like that or not.
I don't know. It seems to me, because now you have to go actually press the recents or the different things, and now you won't have to. It'll just be there. I think that'd actually be useful.
So then does that mean you're going to have to find a voicemail you're looking from under a much longer list of recent calls? And what if the voicemail is a bit old and you're saving it? I would rather the voicemails to be their own list.
Terry, I wondered the same thing as I was watching their presentation, or if there's somewhere in there where I can get to a separate list. Because I agree that what if something gets buried and then it gets missed? I mean, you'll still have, I guess you'll still have little badges, so you'll be able to see when you're out of the app, oh, there's something there that I missed and I need to go back. But I don't know. To me, it just seems like it's going to be more hassle than helpful.
Well,
the phone app is fundamental to the iPhone experience, so anything we can do to make it easier to use.
I put the wrong thing in there. Sorry.
I think this hold assist thing is very interesting, by the way, that you're about to get to. I think it's a cool idea, and he'll explain it here, but I'm just not sure if that's going to work.
What is that typed speak tool you're using?
It's just part of the accessibility stuff on your Mac. Oh, I can't get it to save. Okay. Let's see if it works now.
We have another great experience to help you on your least favorite kind of call, one where you're put on hold. We know how frustrating it is to be stuck on hold for what feels like forever, just to finally speak with a live agent. Well, get that time back with Hold Assist. With Hold Assist, the phone app can keep your spot in line while you wait for a live agent. Next time you're stuck on hold, whether it's because you're changing your flight or dealing with utility bills, the phone app automatically detects hold music and asks if you want it to wait for you. When you tap hold, the music stops, but the call stays connected so you can keep using your iPhone or even put it away and go about your daily routines. Don't worry, once a live agent becomes available, we'll ring you to return to the call and let the agent know that you'll be there shortly.
So I think this sounds great in practice. Like, who the heck wants to sit on hold? But from a practical point of view, I wonder how well the bugs are ironed out on this one. Because I could see a myriad of problems happening. Like, first of all, what if they don't? It says it detects hold music. Like, what if they don't have hold music? Or sometimes when you're on hold, you'll have music playing, and then after a little bit, it'll stop, and then they'll talk a little bit, but it's the hold recording, and then it'll put you back into music, or it'll ask you if you want to continue to hold, press, and so like how will the system interpret those kind of little breaks and things like that? I'm just not sure it's going to be intuitive enough to do that. The other thing is, what happens if I've been waiting and I'm sitting there, it's 20 minutes or 40 minutes or however long, and it says that you finally get to a person, and now the phone's going to tell them, oh, well, hold on, we're going to get them for you. Well, what are they going to do? Like, are they, I could see them hanging up and say, I don't know what this is. And now you got to start all over again. So I think the concept is really cool. I just don't know how this is going to work in practical, all practical matters.
Well, all that is what we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Doesn't come out until the fall. And they have the developer beta just released, and it'll be another month before the regular beta comes out. So,
hey, Ron, before you go to live translation, there was one other thing in the phone app that I thought was very interesting. If you don't mind me mentioning that, they had so they have a new call screening feature, and the way that the way they explain this, at least the way I got it, was if there are unknown numbers that come in, they have a call screening that basically intervenes and then decides if it should send it to you or not. So like, as soon as that unknown number comes, like before it evidently rings to you, they've got a screener built in the system, and the screener is going to decide, well, I'm going to send this to them, or if not, I'm just going to send it to either spam or voicemail or whatever. And I don't have the details on this, but I'm like, well, how are these decisions made? Like, and just because it's an unknown number from, my list of contacts doesn't necessarily mean that it's something I don't want. it could be a doctor's office or something calling me or whatever. And so I'm a little leery of that one as well.
As I understood it, if it's an unrecognized number, it asks the caller to provide their name and why they are calling, and it allows you to check that information and then decide if you want to answer or not.
Okay, I guess I missed that it actually gives you
We
that.
have another great experience to
Sorry,
help you
sorry.
on your least favorite kind of call, one where you're put on hold. We know how frustrating it is to be stuck on hold for what feels like forever, just to finally speak with a live agent. Well, get that time back with Hold Assist. With Hold Assist, the phone app can keep your spot in line while you wait for a live agent. Next time you're stuck on hold, whether it's because you're changing your flight or dealing with utility bills, the phone app.
Steve, if they're able to pull that off, then I think that will work better. But again, we'll have to wait and see if this really works well.
Even as Steve described the feature for the call screening, that basically means that your phone is basically automatically answering the call and having a computerized voice ask the caller who they are and why they're calling. At that point, the scammer knows they've reached a working phone number that has an iPhone, basically.
That's a good point, Terry.
And a scammer will have a hard time getting through.
They'll know it's a real phone number, and they'll know that phone number is associated with an iPhone.
Well, if you set up voicemail, they'll.
I mean, if they hear this
they'll
thing
figure that out
asking
anyway.
them who they are and why they're calling, they'll recognize, oh, that's the latest thing that all the Apple phones are doing. Oh, this is a real phone number. It belongs to somebody, and they got one of the newest iPhones. High value target. I will continue to pound them with scams.
And they will get screened.
Oh, that's possible.
I was thinking about the hold assist, and I was thinking back to a time when I was on hold for at least 20 minutes. I dozed off. And when the office I was calling finally answered my call, the fact that I did not respond within 5 seconds, they hung up on me. So that was frustrating.
Well, maybe now your phone will answer for you,
Yeah, it'll ring you back. So.
All that time, but
Yeah.
Okay, the next thing is live translation, which I thought was really useful if you have people you correspond with in other countries or other languages.
We have another great experience to help you on your least favorite kind of call, one where you're put on hold. We know how frustrating it is to be stuck on hold for what feels.
Oops.
While Ron's getting this one ready, I thought this was one of the cool new features. I thought, man, if this really works in live time, this is to me a bit of a game changer.
Now let's talk about a feature we're building across our communication apps, translation. There are moments when you'd like to express an idea, question, or feeling, but a language barrier gets in the way. To help you communicate across languages, we're introducing live translation. With Apple Intelligence, live translation can translate conversations on the fly. It's integrated into Messages, FaceTime, and phone, and it's enabled by Apple-built models that run entirely on device, so your personal conversations stay personal. For instance, in Messages, live translation can automatically translate text for you. So if you're making plans with some new friends while studying abroad, your message can be translated as you type and delivered in their preferred language. And when they respond, each text can be instantly translated for you. When you're catching up on FaceTime, you can follow along with translated live captions while you continue to hear your grandmother's voice.
This seems to me, if you're traveling in a foreign country, this would be really useful. And it says it's on device, so you'd have to be Wi-Fi connected or something, at least what it says. And you actually can communicate with people pretty much anywhere. And lots of languages are
On house, I thought of you when I saw this, that, just taking that translation app stuff that, we were talking about to the next level, that could be really useful for you living in a place where you're, speaking different languages.
right, and it works on Macs and phones and iPads, so it's used for everywhere.
There's an idea for a presentation this fall. We can test this.
Yeah, really.
Translate it into French, and Ron can grade it.
Honestly, Steve, I think that would be a great idea to demonstrate this live.
This lady in the middle here, by the way, she just looks like a teacher that I had at Parkway South. And she was a French teacher.
Oh, really?
So I don't think it's her, but it sure looks like her. Visual intelligence.
This started like last year, but it sounds like, from what I was seeing about, like, to use this, it seemed like before, if I remember correctly, you had to have the iPhone 16 to do this. And now the way they make this sound is that it's going to work as long as you're running iOS 26. So that would be cool.
Yeah, I don't know how far back that would go, but
we have one more update to iOS we want to tell you about today, and that's a big update to visual intelligence. Visual intelligence builds on Apple Intelligence to help you explore your surroundings. So you can simply press the camera control or action button to pull up ratings for a cafe you walk by, or find sneakers similar to the ones you see when you're out and about. It's the fastest way to learn about the objects and places around you. And now we are extending visual intelligence to your iPhone screen so you can search and take action across your apps using anything you're viewing. And we've designed it so you can tap into the capability of apps from across the App Store to give you a closer look. Visual intelligence makes it faster to do more with the content on your iPhone screen, and it works automatically with any app. Say I open a social media app and I see this great jacket. I want to know where I can get something like this. I can find out with visual intelligence, and I can access it with a familiar gesture by pressing the same buttons I use to take a screenshot.
so it might be interesting. It's something that they talked about last year already, but it wasn't available. But now it will be, I suppose.
Well, it was available, but you had to have an iPhone 16 to make use of it. And what they make it sound like is now this isn't iPhone model dependent, but it's iOS 26 dependent. And so I'm going to be real curious to find out, do you have to have still only an iPhone 16 or later? Or as long as your phone can run iOS 26, will this work for you? I mean, I think the whole idea of visual intelligence is fantastic. And I don't know how well you all understand it, but, you could see a picture of any product, and now I could take a picture, because I know we all do that at different times in our lives, where you see something, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I want to know what that is. Or, oh, I've been looking for something like that. And now all you have to, as long as you can get a picture of something, you can identify and figure out where you can get that. Or, again, if there's this cool restaurant I've been curious about, or, events, places, pictures, all this stuff that just by whether you look up the picture online or you snap a picture of it, you're going to be able to get more information. So I think visual intelligence itself is cool, but, like I said, I'm real curious to see what this will work on.
If it goes into facial recognition, that's frightening and scary.
Yeah.
You walk down the street, you take a picture of somebody, and you have a complete bio.
Yeah, good
That's
point.
frightening.
Oops. Well, I thought it would be useful too if you're traveling a place, you can point it at some monument, and I guess it would tell you about that thing.
Yeah.
because I'm not going to be buying dishes over the internet, but traveling like that might be useful. Okay, let's see.
Has any news come out today on which models of phones will be supported or will support at least some of iOS?
I haven't seen anything like that, John.
John, what I saw so far is it goes back to iPhone 11 and iPhone SE. That's what I heard, but I'm not going to tell you 100% that's the definitive answer.
Well, not only that, Glenn, but it could very well be that back to the iPhone 11 or SE or whatever would support some of iOS 26, but there might be some other features that only the later phones will support. We just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't see if I got the right thing or not, but we'll find out.
And that's just some of what's coming to tvOS 26. The new design with liquid glass makes the experience. We have one more update to iOS we want to tell you about today.
Sorry.
Ron, I did have some other thoughts of things just in iOS real quick that I can.
There it is.
Mention unless you have some more iOS stuff here.
No, this is the last slide.
Okay. Just some things I noticed, like one of the things when they're talking about Safari is that as you scroll, and again, they're using the liquid glass for your tab bar there, like where your address is. And as you scroll, that will shrink smaller to kind of get out of the way of content. And I love that rather than it being a fixed thing at the bottom where your scrolling stops above that. Now it just goes kind of through it and that shrinks down. I thought that was cool. FaceTime, which by the way, this will be throughout the OSs that use FaceTime. I like that they have contact posters now instead of just like now you've got a list on the side of contacts or you can enter something. It actually has like, more like what you would see when you're using your phone where you can press on contacts and posters, which I think besides being visually appealing to me seems just easier to see the person's face and click on that to contact them via FaceTime. They mentioned also a tie-in between iOS and CarPlay. For those of you who use CarPlay, it's going to look much more like iOS 26 does. And so I think that's going to be interesting. And they're also going to be allowing you to add like widgets and stuff that you have on your phone into CarPlay now. So I think that will be interesting and hopefully helpful. So that kind of jumped out at me. Well, what will CarPlay look like when I look at my CarPlay?
And which cars would get it? Because most cars are fixed to the CarPlay they have.
Presume there'd be updates, and it's tied to your phone. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all the CarPlays get updated through your phone, not through their individual units.
I don't know. I just had an update from Nissan on my car just yesterday on my operating system, but I haven't seen anything except maybe it's going to support Androids better.
Okay. Now they did talk about CarPlay Ultra, which is going to be sort of as the next step of CarPlay, where and that's only very few automakers have adapted that so far, but like where you can choose what instrumentation you want and it will take the place of like the standard instruments that come like in front of you for driving, like your speedometer and other things. But I don't know a whole lot about that yet. I know that the Messages app, I thought in iOS they did quite a bit with. The first thing, and you see the picture there, if you look at Ron's screen here on the upper left corner there, you can have changeable backgrounds now that you can edit in Messages to customize that a lot more. They also did more stuff with group chats in Messages where it'll show the individual in the group typing. And then also, I don't know if I'd ever want this, but now they introduced something called polls. So if you've got a group, you can put a poll out there about something like, if a group's texting back and forth, hey, we're going to meet for dinner, you could put a poll and say, okay, well, which of these restaurants you want to meet at? And have people vote on it. Let's see. There are more spam filters and messages so that unknowns won't show up. And I don't know about you guys, but I get so many spam texts these days. So anything that is helping to eliminate some of that stuff, I am all for. If they're gonna, you know, do more with that stuff, I'll be happy about it. I'm trying to think what else I noticed through iOS. Oh, on the Apple Music, um, they're now going to have they're doing more with lyrics. You could already get lyrics on there, but now if you're listening to music and the lyrics are not in English, it'll translate those and do pronunciation for you. Um, Also, you're able to, once you go into Apple Music, you can actually pin like favorite artists or things to the top so that you can access that stuff more easily. I'm a big Apple Music user, so I love that idea. Um, I know I saw somewhere, and I don't remember where they were talking about this, but you could actually use Apple Music in your iPhone as a karaoke device. And they were showing that just for a brief second. I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. Um, Not that I'm in a hurry to go do karaoke with my iPhone anywhere, but an interesting feature nonetheless. I thought some map stuff. They did some things with maps in iOS. Um, Now the iPhone will learn your routes that you take often, and it will like save those and help make suggestions of how you can make the route better. It'll also on your routes will send messages about slowdowns if you've got a route planned in there. And then it will save your visited places. They did stress though with the visited places and routes, you can go in and feel free to delete those. So, if you're worried about a privacy thing that, you don't have to let it save all that stuff. So that I thought that was cool in maps. I noticed in Wallet, they were talking about being able to create a digital ID in Wallet. And so I kind of wonder about this. I mean, I know they tout the driver's license thing, but, they said we only have we have 9 states, and it's like something they really tout, but there's not a lot of, states adapting this. So it's kind of frustrating. And then I wonder, well, if you create a digital ID, just how official will that ID be? Like, what am I going to be able to actually use that thing for? Um, they also talking about Wallet. They did one thing that caught my attention was when they talked about that you'll now be able to track orders that you used Apple Pay through your wallet to order. You'll be able to see those orders right there and track those. So I think that's really convenient. They have a new games app that I noticed they talked about through all their devices. And so I'm not sure, what I think of that yet, but I know they used to have the old Game Center thing. And so I'm curious how this will work in terms of being able to play games on your apps. And it's also supposed to be like connected together with people and have top scores among friends. So I thought that was another little interesting thing. So those were all just other things that, grabbed me about iOS.
There's a feature in CarPlay that caught my attention. Let's say you're going to the airport to pick up a friend. CarPlay can give you the status of the flight, that it's on time, running late, whatever. Thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I remember that now, Steve. I agree with you. That is a cool feature.
There's other apps for.
Yeah, you're right, Alan. There are other apps for that, but it's just nice if, CarPlay knows you're going and doing, it's like you don't even have to look into anything else. It just does it for you.
If you're driving, you don't want to open up another app when you already have CarPlay open.
Yeah.
I sit at the cell phone lot at the airport waiting for people. I use other apps instead of even the screens on the TV on the menu because it's better.
Alan, I don't generally leave for the airport till I know their plane is landing, because by the time they land, get off the plane, get, luggage or whatever else and down, I usually find I can drive to the airport quick enough.
Oh, my daughter's a professional traveler. She's quick.
All right, Ron, you want to move on to WatchOS?
Yep, there's what you see is what you get.
Is that supposed to mean you don't have anything to say about it?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I like the wrist flick gesture.
Well, yeah, Alan, they've added more wrist, what do you call them? Wrist flick gestures, I guess, that you control more stuff with. So I thought that's good. The more you can do without having to, be totally dialed into your watch and the focus your world there, I think is a good thing. You know, I'm curious again that, the liquid glass extends through the whole line of devices. And so my worry is if it's hard to read on the iPhone, it's going to be super hard on the watch. Again, I'm hoping for the best, that transparency will work well. One thing I did not like that they were all over on WatchOS was their workout buddy. And I don't know if anybody else caught that or what you thought of that, but man, that is going to, if I can turn that thing off, that thing will get turned off. And if I can banish it from my watch, I will. Maybe some people need that stuff, like, good job, keep it up, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, I would find that so annoying. I don't want that rah stuff in there. And so, basically the workout buddy, what it does is it uses like your fitness data history, and then it gives you prompts and encouragements for your workout. And so I'm just like, yeah, they were real big on this. And I'm like, nah, I think we're going too far with that. I do know that there is a new layout in the workouts app in the watch. And now one thing I thought was cool is it'll pair Apple Music with your workouts and it'll select stuff. And so what I wondered is, like, for instance, if I'm running and my tempo is at a certain cadence, will it find music that's tempo matches the cadence that I want to run at? Because that would be very useful. I've done stuff in the past with runners using just beeps where we practice our cadence. And so, I think that would be a tie-in with that. I'm looking forward to learning more about that. The other thing that they're using in WatchOS is Smart Stacks. And it's going to use widgets that go with whatever activities you're doing. And supposedly the watch will figure out what like things you need just through its machine learning by, what activities you're doing. And it'll put those widgets on these smart stacks that are easy for you to use. So I thought that was interesting. One thing I also found interesting, and if anybody caught this, they're now putting notes on the watch. And I'm like, okay, great. Because as you guys know, I've talked about this. I'm a huge Apple Notes user. And I mean, I've got an Apple Watch Ultra, so I've got a decent sized screen, but I just wonder how useful those notes are going to be on my watch because, to get those on there, how much are we going to condense those? Now, like a lot of times when I'm coaching, I have notes, I have practice plans and things that I need to know at practice. And I'm like, it'd be great if I can just flick my wrist up and look at that. If it's, actually readable rather than having to get my phone out and do that kind of stuff. By the way, they're also putting the background noises that I talked about will also now be on your watch in WatchOS 26. All right, Ron, that was it. Are we skipping tvOS and going? You want to go to Mac OS here?
Well, we only have 10 minutes, so we got Mac OS and iPad OS.
Okay. Don, did you have a question?
Mac OS.
No, I just saw on TV
and powerful
it showed the Fountain of Youth. I was going to tell them great.
It includes many of the features you heard about in iOS, like backgrounds and screening tools and messages, more options in Image Playground and GAMUG, and live translation, and it introduces many more updates, taking the Mac OS experience to the next level. Starting with a stunning new design, it elevates the iconic elements of Mac OS, making them at once fresh and timelessly Mac. From the moment you unlock, the desktop is instantly familiar. Widgets, the dock, and app icons have been refined with the liquid glass, which also elevates the experience in your apps. Sidebars and toolbars reflect the depth of your workspace, and offer a subtle hint of the content within easy reach as you scroll. This updated design doesn't just look stunning, it also enhances the Mac OS experience in new ways. The menu bar is now completely transparent, making your display feel larger, and there are more ways to customize what controls appear in the menu bar and control center, and how they're laid out. There are so many new controls to choose from. You can even add controls for your favorite Mac apps, like Zoom, and iPhone apps too.
Basically, everything that's coming out with iOS is also on the Mac.
We're also enhancing the calling experience by bringing the phone app to Mac. You can conveniently access your familiar content, like recents, contacts, and voicemail, sync from my phone, and easily make a call with just a click. Incoming calls look beautiful on the bigger screen, featuring stunning contact posters of your friends and family. And the phone app on Mac includes all the great updates we talked about earlier, like hold assist, call screening, and live translation. So that's what's new in continuity.
Ron, as I kind of said at the beginning, you can really see more than ever, we are really integrating these systems more.
Oh, for sure.
The one thing you hit at the end there, they're bringing a phone app to both iPad and Mac. And I'm like, man, that's a huge game changer. I mean, I can already make a call, using FaceTime or, the Mac being able to bring up my phone stuff. But this is actually its own native phone app. And I'm just like, how useful is that? I love that idea, that it's just a fully functional app on its own.
For sure.
The other things that I like is, well, you see it right there in the middle of your screen, the customizing of like folders and stuff. I mean, you could customize folders before, but it wasn't simple. And now they're really giving you more tools to customize your Mac OS. With that kind of stuff, I love the transparent tool menu bar. I've used a few different menu bar assistants that I've talked about, like Bartender and Barbie and things like that over the last couple of years. And so as they talk about more functionality for the toolbar, I wonder if they're starting to take some of these ideas. I'll be curious to see where they go with this, to fully play with that. But basically it's the continuity stuff, it's the customizing the stuff. And I think if there's anywhere that the liquid glass really catches my eye that I think will be cool, it's going to be on Mac. The other big thing on Mac for me, and I mentioned this before when I was talking about Raycast, they have totally redone the Spotlight app. And when I watched them presenting about Spotlight, I was absolutely blown away by that. Like Spotlight before was just a hassle. It just, in my opinion, was not designed well. It was not a great search tool. And it looks like now that they've really have really beefed that up. There's a lot more AI at work there. It's a better search thing. It now, just like I said with Raycast, where I could put in shortcuts and little key actions, now Spotlight evidently is going to be able to do that stuff. So a lot of that stuff that I was talking about in Raycast, I think it sounds like, I can't wait to get my hands on this fall and use it. It sounds like that functionality is going to be right there in Spotlight. And I mean, I just can't stress how badly needed this was, because Spotlight has been awful since they introduced it. It's just not even been worthy of being part of the app. And it was, I mean, I would find third-party apps that were much better at search than Spotlight. And so I think all that stuff is cool. They're supposedly going to have like quick key things that you can start actions. Like I noticed in there, they would type SM and that starts to send a message. And then you could put like more in there and do it right from Spotlight and send your message. And Spotlight, again, you just hit Command Spacebar and it's right there. It was kind of like what I was talking about with the Raycast app. And so I thought that was just, like I said, that was the biggest thing that just blew me away that I can't wait for.
One of the biggest changes is iPad OS. It's going to be much more like a computer.
Wow, more windows, a pointier pointer in a menu bar? Who would have thought? We've truly pulled off a mind-blowing release. And this isn't just great on iPad Pro and iPad Air. The new windowing architecture has enabled us to bring it to every iPad that runs iPadOS 26, including iPad and iPad mini. It also works great with Stage Manager and on external displays. It's a massive update to the way you work with multiple apps at once on iPad.
I am excited. I'm a huge iPad user. And when I saw the new Windows architecture stuff, the multitasking Windows on iPad, I was just like literally saying, hallelujah. Thank you. It's about time. As I was taking notes, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm like, yes, 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 in my notes. And I'm writing that. I was so excited about that. That you can now have different windows and switch between windows. And, to me, that is a complete game changer for iPad OS and how you work in there. And you can still flick things and just have one thing at a time on your iPad. You're not stuck using Windows. So it kind of gives you that option to go between. And I love that the windows have the little corner handles that you can move and resize windows. And, you can flick stuff over to the edges so it'll tile everything if you want. Or you can just swipe up to see the dock and go back home. If you're an iPad
we're
user, I think
supercharging the Files app. It now includes features like an updated list view to see more details and resizable columns in collapsible folders. It also gets the same folder customization options as Mac OS with custom colors and icons that sync across devices, making it easy to spot the one you're looking for. And you can now choose which app you want to open a file with and set it as a default, like picking Photoshop, Visco, or Darkroom for opening images for easier access to your files. You can now put folders in the dock. Simply drag any folder from the Files app right into the dock. When you tap on one, it fans out, showing the files inside. Perfect for getting to your downloads, most recent documents, or a favorite folder no matter what app you're in. And it's easy to drag in and out of your folders too. Now, one type of file you might be opening is a PDF. And to help you with that, we're bringing a beloved app from Mac OS to iPad OS, Preview. Preview is a dedicated app to view and edit your PDFs with powerful tools like Apple Pencil markup and autofill, making it easy to access, annotate, fill in, or highlight. And it also includes familiar tools to edit images and export them in a variety of different formats and sizes.
If I had an iPad, I think the Preview app would be really useful.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. They're bringing that because that'll now integrate it over, with Preview in your other devices as well. I thought that was great. I like that each of your apps now on your iPad have menu bars, which will allow more functionality. The Files app, I use the Files app quite a bit because I can pull up stuff through iCloud even when I'm not like sitting at home. And so they've added a lot more functionality to that. And you can even put a folder through Files in your dock if you want. AV controls, there's a lot more AV controls, especially if you want to record stuff and voice isolation. If you're like on a call, you can now record your side of the call for audio or video calls through the AV controls. I thought was cool. Also, one thing they had that I thought's cool is for the math notes stuff that now we'll do 3D graphing on there, which I think will look pretty cool. And by the way, the other thing, a lot of this new stuff, and again, I'm excited to hear this, you don't have to have some whiz bang iPad Pro to use. Any iPad that will run iPad OS 26 will run this stuff. So I'm excited about that because I hate when they make updates that only the latest and greatest model can do. I'm still ticked that the new Apple Pencil will only run on certain iPads, that I can't use it, but I want the functionality of that. So yeah, iPad, I think, had the biggest changes of all the devices.
For sure. And the last thing would be they talked about the developer beta was useful actually not today, but yesterday. And it'll be another month before they have the public beta coming out, and we can download OS 26 in the fall, maybe September, October, something like that.
Ron, one last thing, if I may add, if any of you ever use Xcode and do some coding, I thought it was very interesting, not surprising, but interesting that they've now integrated that with ChatGPT, so that if you're trying to write code using Xcode, you can use ChatGPT to help you write that code. And maybe next month we can talk a little bit about tvOS, and we can talk about Vision OS. I don't. Is there anybody who has a Vision unit? No. Still interesting to see.
I think I would love to have one.
Alan, I agree. It'd be fun to have, but I just can't see myself going out and spending $3,000 on it, you know. So I think it's a fun toy than anything.
I could afford it.
It's you know, regardless of whether, you know, just you're muted.
I don't have any children that need the money, so okay.
Does
I could
anybody
afford it too, Alan, but what would I use it for exactly? I don't know. Maybe viewing things, but I watch television on the television, so.
I mean, I think it's a incredible device. Now, I told you guys my experience of trying it out at the Apple Store. I found after a while it was getting, I really didn't like the feel of it. I got tired of it after a while. I think it'd be, like I said, it'd be fun to use, but it's not one of those things that I see like my computer, my iPad, my phone are all, to me, necessary devices. I don't see that with, you know, that device.
Okay, I'm gonna put the people that are here now into our drawing, and it's gonna take me a couple minutes, and then I'll be back.
While Ron's doing that,
Talk amongst yourselves.
Does anybody have any questions or comments about WWDC stuff?
Glenn, I agree. Just to comment on the iPad OS, I agree with you that I think that's the one that had the greatest number of changes, in the sense that this is going. I think it really takes the iPad, well, some iPads, at least, who knows how many it'll actually support, really right up there to a level where it's difficult to distinguish it from a Mac now. You know, before it was always, and they focused on the two things on the iPad that always fell short compared to what the Mac could do: file management, okay, and Windows management. You could do that to a certain extent on the iPad, in each new version of iPad OS, but only to a certain extent, and it was always far short of what the Mac could do. From what they were able to show yesterday, it looks to me like they've pretty much collapsed the difference between those two pieces of hardware. Not only that, but of course, you know, the iPad will support, well, some version some version or other of the Apple Pencil, and of course, it's a touch screen. Now, a lot of people have been criticizing Apple's laptops for not being touch screens. Okay. Now, I think from what I saw yesterday, it looks like Apple can now come back to say, you want a laptop with a touch screen? Get an iPad. You want a laptop that can support a pencil? Get an iPad. All you need to do is to pair it with your choice of keyboard, and really just about any Bluetooth keyboard, I believe, would work, and unlock all these features. Not sure about that part, but assuming that to be true, then I think Apple has answered its critics who said that they didn't have a touch screen laptop. Looks to me like now that as soon as this operating system ships, that by God, that's what we're going to have.
I definitely think it's closer, although for me, it still would have a hard time taking the place of my Mac, because I really do have very different uses for both of them. And so I can't see some of that stuff, but I agree. It takes a step more toward that.
I think we're going to have to rethink the differences between them. It was very easy, you know, after 5 minutes or so is all it would take and doing something with a Mac and say, okay, I'll try to do that on the iPad. No, sorry, you can't do it. It was easy to discover a gazillion things that the Mac could do that the iPad could not. Now it's going to take a lot more than that 5 minutes. I don't think that they're completely the same I don't think the two operating systems are completely the same. I don't think they're intended to be the same. But oh my God, have they made the iPad so much closer? I
Well,
think
for
a lot
me,
of people are going to be able to do on an iPad with this operating system what they had to have a Mac to do in the past. We'll see how that shakes out, but my God, they're so much closer together now.
and for me, my iPad is indispensable. I use it for a lot of things, and some people, a lot of people don't have an iPad, but I just think this is going to make it even better. And by the way, if the things you can do on an iPad now that you don't need the computer, they're definitely going to be cheaper. You can get iPads cheaper than you can computers, depending on, what level of stuff you're buying. But anybody else have any other observations or questions they wanted to ask?
I have a question about, could you connect a iPad as an external monitor on a
Yes.
Mac?
Yes.
So if you just wanted to use the pencil device on a Mac, you could just connect the screen for the iPad and use it directly?
Yes.
Yep. And I love my Apple Pencil. I use it all the time. I mean, I sat here with my iPad on my lap watching WWDC, and I took notes with my Apple Pencil. I literally took about 8 pages of notes here about this stuff, and I use it quite a bit. Like I said, I was very bummed when I couldn't get the next gen Apple Pencil I've got an iPad Pro from 21 that I couldn't use it with that, and so I hate when they come out with a new thing that only works with the latest device. I mean, I understand after a period of time, but that's so annoying.
Looks like Ron is back.
This is the tickets. Everybody that's attended a meeting since January, and everybody who's a paid member is also in here. So we'll see. Okay.
Everybody's holding their breath.
Oh, I'm sorry, but it's me.
Yeah,
Can you
right.
see?
Hmm.
Suspicious.
It's not rigged, I'm sorry. Oops. Tammy Coin. Are you there, Tammy?
But we'll just forget that. I mean,
Yes.
Tammy's here.
Don H. Is he still here? Oh, there he is.
All right.
And one more. Terry Coin.
Hey.
Oh, thank you.
They're getting their money's worth.
That's true.
Great.
Okay, so Alan, I'll send you the people that you
just so I have a record of it. Yeah.
Alan will send out an email to you that gets your Apple gift certificate exactly, but it's sort of like,
well, those things are useful anyway now. They used to have two different kinds. Now they're all just one.
Yeah, now it all goes into your Apple account.
Right.
You can pay your dues with it or buy something or whatever you want.
Or pay for your Apple iCloud account. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can just honestly, when I get Apple cards, I don't immediately put them in my account because I'm like, I might want to save it later to use. And if I just put it in there, all of a sudden it just gets sucked up by my monthly,
So what you want to do is save those so you can show your wife that you don't have to, that you're not paying for anything because it was given to you, right?
No, I have like 4 or 5 Apple cards over time that I've just been saving. And I do the same with my Apple Cash where I get money in there. I don't pay my bills. I save all that up. I think I literally have I think I've got over $1,000 for like that I can use for Apple saved right now. And so whenever I want to buy my next device, it's just sitting there. So that's what I do.
Doesn't have interest,
Yeah. So
Alan, I still need to talk to you about I sent cheap, what's it called?
Cheap.
Anyway, I still don't know what to do with that last information, that it's how to log in and all that stuff.
Well, they just
the email. Did you see it?
You have to just send them an email, right?
Well, I sent an email to you that they sent to me.
Okay.
Did you see it?
I don't know.
Check in.
I'm so involved in my health. Yeah, I've got.
Please check because it's Namecheap, and some of the stuff it says in there, register or unregister your DNS and all this crap. I have no idea what they're talking about, but I thought maybe you did.
I did in the past. I'm not sure if I still remember anything. I'll look at it again, Ron.
Yeah, please do. Oh, and I sent I had a charge for the Zoom for the year.
Okay.
And I sent that to you too. It's like 169.59. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah. And we had somebody else send some dues in on to me yesterday.
I just sent an email to everybody, all the officers that who was it paid?
Was that Fran Fielding?
Fran, yeah. Yeah, Fran paid. And I put the money in the bank. I'm not sure I sent a confirming email out today. I was driving all over.
It's Carl Zimmerman.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
I just sent it out today I don't know about Fran. You have to send that to me. And I sent you an email, a mail too about
I did yours.
my $30.
Yeah, I sent that back to you, didn't I? Yeah.
Okay, I just haven't seen it yet.
I sent it to all the officers. I'm pretty sure that yours was in there. Check my recent emails. Well, yeah, Francis Field is one I got today.
Was it for Apple or what?
No, that was for his membership.
Yeah, but was it an Apple Pay?
Oh, he sent it Venmo.
Oh, okay.
And so I have to take money out of my Venmo account or my Apple ID account and then deposit this money into my bank.
Yeah, I know when I saw it, he said does Venmo, and I thought, well,
he's done Venmo the last 3 years.
App there.
Yeah.
Alan, I'll be sending you my dues here shortly. So look out for that.
Okay. Well, I try to send whenever I get a balance, I send it to the what my receiving receipt is and my sending receipt to the bank, and I send that to each of the officers.
All right. Any other business?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
I'll look for your email, Ron.
Yeah, please do, because like I said, I have no clue exactly what I'm supposed to do about it.
Okay.
Alan, I just sent you the address that my father prefers you to send that card to. So I just sent you a text on that.
Okay.
All right. All right, guys. Well, we will see you all next month then.
Indeed. Night, everybody.
All right. Take care.
Bye.